Hello, welcome back to the channel. Now I'm gonna say it straight away. If you were expecting this video to be a CBR500R racing a CBR650R, I'm sorry, that's not what this is. I'm sorry to have misled you. This is not a race. I don't have a CBR500R with me anywhere. It's just me on the 650R. But I am going to be comparing both bikes. I used to own a CBR500R before I got this CBR650R. So I think I can give a bit of insight into the similarities and the differences between a CBR500R and this CBR650R. So if you're interested in hearing about those similarities and differences, then stay tuned, because I'm going to talk about it. So there's three reasons why I want to make this video, and there's three things you can expect to learn from this video. First of all, if anybody is out there considering going from a CBR500R to a CBR650R, then this video can perhaps help you make your mind up. I mean, I was one of those people. I know a lot of people don't normally go from the 500 to the 650 because, I mean, they're so close in size. I mean, people either get a 500 or a 650. They don't normally go from one to the other. So, but I was in that peculiar circumstance, and maybe some of you guys might also be considering going from a 500 to a 650. So I just want to talk about some of the similarities and differences between the bikes, so you know, is it worth to go from a 500 to a 650, or maybe should you go from a 500 to something a bit bigger, or you know, I'm going to talk about all of that. Another reason why I want to make this video is I've had a few comments on my channel asking if you can go from a smaller bike like a 125cc or a 250, if you can go from those bikes to a 650. And of course it's down to opinion, it's down to experience and all sorts of stuff, but I wanted to address that in this video as well, and perhaps even offer another suggestion. If you are maybe too nervous about going to a 650, then perhaps a CBR500R might be more suited to your needs. And then the third reason I wanted to make this video, I just want to see if I can answer the question, is the 650R a good starter bike? So that's if you've never ever touched a motorcycle before, you're brand new to motorcycling or to riding, can you get a CBR650R? I want to answer that as well, or give my opinion on it. So let's start with the similarities and the differences between a CBR500R and a CBR650R. So let's talk about size first of all. Now the size of the bikes is pretty much almost identical. Yes, of course the 650R is going to be bigger than the 500, it's going to be heavier than the 500, but not by that much. It's not that much heavier, it's not that much bigger. So if you're wondering if you shouldn't get a 650 because it's too big and you'd rather get a 500, then it doesn't really matter. You might as well get a 650 anyway, because a 500 is pretty much almost the same size. It isn't much smaller or much lighter. So you're going to be on a relatively big bodied bike anyway. So the size is pretty much similar. The only thing I'll say with size, one difference is this bike, despite not being that much heavier than a 500, when you're riding, moving it around and handling it, especially at slower speeds, it is harder to handle this bike and maneuver it. Not much harder, it's not that big of a difference. I'm probably just being a bit nitpicky, but this bike is a bit more whalish and a bit more of a hassle to move around, so just keep that in mind. Let's go to positioning and comfort. So the 500, again, it is a more comfortable bike in terms of positioning. Now sadly I don't have any pictures or any videos of me riding my 500 that I could show you from an outside view what I look like when I'm sitting on it or whilst I'm riding it. But I do have footage of me on the 650R, so if that helps, you can click a little card. I should have one on the top right of the screen where you can see what I look like on this bike. But pretty much I can just describe it to you anyway. On the 500, you're a bit more upright than you are on the 650. So because you're more upright, there's less weight on your wrists, there's less pressure on your back, and your legs aren't as scrunched up. Though actually, to be honest, with the legs on the 500R, your legs are going to be pretty much the same position. Actually, I'll take that back. Your legs, very similar position to this one, just as scrunched up, but you do sit more upright, which makes it more comfortable overall. The only thing I'd say is more comfortable on this bike than the 500R is actually the seat. The seat on this bike is so comfortable. It's so comfortable, it's crazy. Like, I have to double check if I have the stock seat. Maybe I have an aftermarket seat, because this thing is so comfortable. I'm joking, I know I don't have an aftermarket seat, but it is really, really comfortable. But the 500R seat, oh my word, that thing, it's like you're sitting on rocks. Like, at first it feels okay, but after you've sat on that thing for a while, you feel like you're sitting on rocks. So yeah, big win for the seat on the 650R. But in terms of general comfort, positioning, how tired you get riding the bike, yeah, this bike is going to be worse. It's not going to be as comfortable. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk about engine. So the 500R has a parallel twin engine, and it has 47 brake horsepower, I believe. So it's a very different engine setup to this bike, which is a inline 4 and has 94 brake horsepower. So it's pretty much double the power of the 500R. Now that might scare you, and if you're not looking to get a really powerful, really strong bike, then you might not want to hear that this bike is double the power of a 500. But it doesn't feel double the power of a 500, I'll be honest. Yes, it does feel much faster than a 500, there's no doubt about that, but it doesn't feel double the power. Don't worry too much about this being too fast and a 500R being, you know, too slow or anything like that. Then it's not that big of a difference. There's a difference, but it's not that crazy. Even something like that, you could have done that on a 500. Maybe not as quickly, but you could do that on a 500 as well. Back to what I was saying, the engine setup is very different. A parallel twin versus an inline 4. So the parallel twin is going to be more torquey. You're going to have a lot of grunt down low. So with the 500, you know, if you're going from 0 to 60, you're in first gear, you're going to crank on that throttle and you're going to get almost all of the power instantly, and it's going to be very thrilling, especially if it's your first time on a 500 or that type of bike. But then after 60 miles an hour, you kind of run out of power, and that low down grunt that you get early on in the RPMs is going to be gone, and then you don't have that much power to play with after 60 miles an hour, to be honest. Whereas this bike, it does have low down power as well, but like most inline 4s, you're going to get a lot more of the power up high. So when you're already going fast, when you're already at a high RPM, so it's a very different style of riding. I would say this bike is more suited for fast journeys. So like on the type of road I'm on now, I'm on a highway or a motorway. This bike would be more suited for that, whereas a 500 would be more suited for, I would say, country lanes, slower traffic. Now, it doesn't mean it's a slow bike. It's not a slow bike. The 500 isn't a slow bike, but it just feels more at home on those type of roads, more in town, you know, maybe the outskirts of town. I would say if you're someone who has a 500R already and you're wondering if you want to go up to a 650R, is it worth getting a 650R? Is it that much more powerful? Is it that much faster than a 500R to worth getting this bike? Well, that depends how you feel about your 500R. If you're absolutely bored out of your mind with your 500R, like you've ridden it to its max, you've got everything you can get out of that bike, there's no more you can get out of it, you know, you've reached a skill level where you're far beyond the 500R, then I would say, yeah, definitely get something bigger than a 650R, especially if you're chasing that speed high. You know, if you want a bike that's really fast, revs really high, revs really loud, you know, balls to the walls power, if that's what you're looking for after your 500R, then yeah, I wouldn't recommend this. This is a fine bike and you have fun on it, but I would still suggest that someone in that situation should get something a bit bigger, a bit faster and a bit stronger than a 650R. And I hate when I say something like that because it makes it sound like I'm saying this bike isn't fast enough or big enough or beefy enough. It is more than fast enough, but I don't know, I feel like a 500, if you're very confident on a 500 and you're looking for more, then why just go up to a 650? You can go up to so much more. Let's talk about styling. Believe it or not, I actually think the 500R is a nicer looking bike than this one. I really do. I think the 500R just has a really cool look to it. It does have an awkward look to it as well, where it's like a fake sports bike. There's something about it that doesn't really look like a proper sports bike, but just the styling of it, the paintwork they did to those bikes, the 500 series, man, especially the newer ones as well, because I had a 2016 one, but the newer ones look even better. So yeah, I love the look of the 500s. The 500s look amazing, and I actually think they look better than these 650Rs. I got so many compliments with my 500. I've got a few compliments with this bike as well, but man, nowhere near with my 500. Like the first day I got my 500, I got compliments. It was crazy. Like so much people always stopping me, you know, thumbsing me up, and you know, always asking me to rev the bike. It got so much attention. This bike doesn't really get the same level of attention, which is okay. I mean, that's not a reason to buy a bike or not buy a bike, you know. But it's just something I thought I'd mention, you know. I felt really cool on my 500. It got a lot of stares, it got a lot of looks. Maybe that was a bad thing in the long run, as I'm gonna explain in my next video. Actually, maybe it wasn't such a good thing that it was eye candy, if I should put it that way. But yeah, the 500 looks great, and I think it looks better than this bike, but looks are subjective, so there's not really a point in me talking about it. But yeah, and the last thing I'm probably going to mention comparing the 500 to this bike is cost. A 500 is cheaper. I'm not really going to go into specifics. I mean, of course it's cheaper, it's a smaller bike. I think it actually has a bigger tank though. I'm pretty sure the 500 has a bigger tank than this, so I think you can get more fuel in it. And if you ride the 500 gently, you get good mileage out of it as well. You know, you'll get good miles per gallon. So that's another plus with the 500. It's obviously going to be cheaper to insure, and cheaper to maintain, and all of that stuff. So yeah, cost effective. If you're on a budget, yeah, go for the 500, and then maybe eventually, if you do want to get something bigger, you can save up for that bigger bike. So far though, I haven't really noticed much difference in cost. The 500 is cheaper obviously, especially when it comes to insurance and things like that, but in terms of running cost, it's not that big of a difference. well, I can't even say the word, it's negligible. Yeah, I'm not saying that again. That's pretty much all I can think of. I mean, I don't really script these videos. Maybe I should get my thoughts in order before I start recording. I just kind of jump on the bike and ride and start waffling. But yeah, that's pretty much all of the comparisons I can make. Actually, I say before I move on, the sound. If you really care about sound and you want the inline 4 raw from your motorcycle rather than the parallel twin grunt, then yeah, then you should get one of these instead of a 500. Some people don't care about the sound. Some people prefer the parallel twin sound. Some people don't like this inline 4 sound, but I love that, man. You can't beat that. You can't beat that inline 4 sound, especially when you've got an exhaust. It's too good. All right, I'm gonna sneak. You can't beat that noise, man. Sounds too good. All right, comparisons between the two bikes over. Let me answer the 2 other questions that I said I was gonna answer. Why did I come here? I don't even know where I am, but I don't like it. Too much traffic for me. Oh, thank you. But yeah, let's get to answering those other questions I mentioned before. The first one was, if you have a 125 or a 250 or a smaller CC bike, can you go straight to a 650? Well, I think you can. I definitely think you can. But again, like I said earlier, when I was answering if you can go from a 500 to a 650, it depends how confident you are on your 125 or how confident you are on your 250, you know? If you think you've maxed out that bike, you're confident on it, you know there's nothing more you can learn on that bike, your skill level far surpasses what is needed to ride a 125, and you're itching for something more, you're itching for something bigger, then yeah, of course, you can definitely get on one of these, as long as you take it slow. You know, this bike doesn't have any power modes or any settings that you can apply to make it easier to handle. You know, just with your right hand, man, that's it, just throttle control. You know, you can make it go slow. The bike doesn't have to go fast. You can control it. It's not too heavy, it's not too big, it's not too wide, you know, it's not too tall. I think it's a good stepping stone from those bikes. But if you do still feel, you know, a bit shaky or a bit nervous, or you still have some hesitation when it comes to moving up from the bike you're on now, then instead of going to a 650, I would say, why not consider a 500? And then to answer the last question, do I think the CBR650R is a good beginner bike in general? So that's if you've never touched a motorcycle before, you have no experience riding a bike, you want to get into motorcycling and you think, yeah, I want to get a 650R. Do I suggest you do that? No. I don't think you should do that. Of course, there's people that start on super sports and 1000cc beast and monsters, and they're perfectly fine, and I mean, good for them. I mean, I would say start on something even smaller than a 500, but again, that's why I think the CBR500R kind of is a better pick. If you are going to start on something similar to this, I would suggest a CBR500R. Don't go straight to this. If I'm able to edit this video into something coherent, I will be very surprised, because my thoughts were not very well put together in this video. But I hope what I said made sense, and if you have any questions, because I'm sure you will, because I did not do a good job of explaining myself, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to clarify and expand upon anything I said in the video. So until the next video, this is goodbye, and you should check out the next video. I think you guys will enjoy the next video. I mean, it's not that special, but it's gonna be an interesting thing to talk about. So yeah, stay tuned for the next video. Woo, that sounds nice. Oh yeah, I didn't say goodbye. Bye.